Welcome to Deliciously Motivated Mindset, hosted by Deborah and Moira. This podcast is designed to help listeners unlock their full potential, both personally and professionally, so they can thrive, not just survive. Deborah and Moira explore how natural tendencies don't always serve individuals and provide insights on how to harness existing strengths. Their goal is to equip listeners with the habits, mindset shifts, and strategies needed for lasting, meaningful change. Finding purpose and fulfillment can be challenging, but this podcast offers expert conversations, practical advice, and valuable tools to help align with a true sense of purpose and create a more fulfilling life. So grab a notebook, open your notes app, and get ready to take in some game-changing insights. Let's dive in.
Welcome, welcome, welcome. Welcome, dear listeners. Welcome, dear Deb.
Hi.
Hello, my dear. Here we are with another one of our Deliciously Motivated Mindset podcast conversations. This one's a good one. And actually, we were talking a wee bit about it before we hit record there. So we're going to talk about stories. Are the stories you tell yourself the truth? But of course they are. Maybe they're not.
Yes.
Before we get into our conversation about unpacking our stories or our narratives, we would like to just kind of come in. Let's all land here together and create a wee bit of heart coherence. Heart coherence is so easily created, but we just need to remember to do it. So I invite you to put one or both hands over your heart space and take a nice long, slow breath in through your nose. Pause slightly at the top and sigh it out of your mouth. And again, another deep breath in and sigh it out. And one more just like that, breathing in and breathing out. And then just allow yourself to find your natural rhythm of slower breathing, slower and deeper, allowing you to just land here. And the beauty of doing this is it calms your nervous system. And by the fact that you've got your hand, one hand or both hands over your heart space, really helps you get into this present moment. And in the present moment is where we can become coherent with our own heart's resilience, our own heart's vibration, and we get to connect energetically with all beings doing this. And it's actually what's the other part that's really beautiful about this is that this coherence is actually always available to us. We just have to remember to slow things down enough to feel into it. So taking another nice deep breath, intending that you're connecting with that beautiful, unconditionally loving matrix or blanket of love that's always there for you. And maybe even set a wee intention that you will come back to this anytime you start wondering if the story you're telling yourself is the truth. Or if you start wondering or start feeling a bit discombobulated or disconcerted or anything, allowing yourself to just come back and take a few rounds of breath like that. Such a powerful thing to do for yourself and for the collective. So all that being said, let's get into our topic for today. So we would like to give you insights, and as Deb always says, these tips and ideas will not be in any specific order, although I've been saying yes they will. It'll be in the order that they occur to us. So we encourage you to grab your favorite note-taking device and just reflect for a wee minute. What's your relationship with the stories that you tell yourself? So, dear Deb, are the stories you tell yourself the truth?
Absolutely. Every time. There's no lying in my world whatsoever.
Never, ever, ever.
There's always evidence. There's absolutely, yes, it's the same story and I love it. No.
That's it. That's it. Podcast over.
End of. Yeah.
End of. We're done.
That's a little bit arrogant to even think that's what it was. To even think that the stories you tell yourself are the truth. I
Mm-hmm.
think there's the practical head, and then there's the other head that we have. And
The
so I'm going
emotional,
into
maybe.
yeah, I'm like that one.
The other.
And I'm going into the very first thing is, where is the evidence?
Hmm.
Let's just get some evidence, because these stories may not have come from you. They may have
Yeah.
come from you sitting on the couch 10 years ago watching a movie with somebody, and you see something and you're like, oh, that's what happens. That's
Mm-hmm.
what happens when you're at this age, or that's what happens when you get into relationships, or that's what happens when you wear certain things, like all of that stuff. So just first is, if you have the brain power, ask yourself, where's the actual evidence this has happened? Now, even if it is a truth and there's evidence there, that evidence can be resolved because it's
Mm-hmm.
just a story.
Mm-hmm.
We want to know that. But once you have the evidence, then you can unpack it. But if you can't find the evidence, then it's literally a story that's 99.900% not yours.
Right. Not yours, or maybe not the current version of you, right?
Oh, yeah,
Because like you
that's a
said,
great one too.
yeah, because like you said, it could be that it's locked into something 10 years ago or something.
Hmm.
So
But you've got to find that, you've got to go, you have to go down to that journey of, what is this? What
mhm,
what what is this?
mhm,
Because otherwise you can go, oh, there is no evidence, or I remember that it was actually a movie, that's not mine. And then
right.
then instantly it's defused.
Yep. Yeah,
Just like that. Yeah.
just like that.
Just like that. Yeah.
So
There was a lot, actually, a lot of tips on the sideline of that one when we think about that, wasn't there?
yes.
Yeah.
Yes, because what it made me think of when you were describing that about the evidence is I also think it's an important one. Maybe you need to do some of that heart coherence and just come in and say, how does it make me feel? How does that story make me feel? So,
Mm,
for instance, and I was telling Deb an example of this. For instance, I see somebody doing something or not doing something, and I go, oh gosh, that feels upsetting to me. That's
mm.
unkind.
Yeah.
Then we can easily get into a story. Oh, I know what they're thinking about me, or not thinking about me. But how does it make me feel about me? It makes me feel um weighted down or heavy or like I've been kicked in the stomach or something of that nature, then maybe that's a story that I have to say that's not serving me. So
Mm,
it's and maybe it's not the truth, but it if it discombobulates you or makes it there's a heaviness, then it's not the truth. It's not
yeah.
your truth. It doesn't serve you. So maybe it's time to do cancel, 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 or shake it off, or write it out and rip up a piece of paper.
Yeah, and I think that's the other thing is, it's movable as well.
Yeah.
Just because this story, and whether there's evidence or not, it's all movable. It's not set in stone. You
Yeah.
know,
Because if it's just a story, it's a story, right?
that's it. Yeah. And if it's a story that's got a lot of things to it, it's still movable. You can move anything
Mhm.
in your mind. Yeah.
Well,
If
that,
you're yeah.
but that makes me think too of if it is a story that you're telling yourself, you don't have to believe it, right?
But back then it was true. Back then it was true. Yes, yes, yes. But you're no longer that person you were yesterday. In fact, people, you're at the end of this podcast, you're no longer that person who was that one at the start of the podcast.
Yeah. Yeah. That, and so again, it's coming back into the we must do things to stay in the present moment
Mm,
ongoingly, right?
yeah. Yep. Totally. Totally. Even when I think about this movable story, I think I'm going to go back to, and I'm going to say to people, remember the stuff you've been through before. Remember the stuff you've been through before and how you moved through it. Now, it may not have been a gracious moving through. We'll just be honest. It may have felt
Yeah.
like you were going through a barbed wire fence, but you still got to where you are today. So, having that evidence that you can, might be helpful to go. Actually, you know what? These are stories, and I've worked through stories before, and here I am doing this now, and it's okay. And just knowing that makes a big difference.
Absolutely. And so you know that's a tip on its own, but that goes jumping right into trust,
Oh, yeah.
right? Because when we know that we've been through stuff before, then we could be in a situation where we're telling ourselves a story of like, oh my God, I don't know how I'm going to get through this. I don't know if I've got the capacity to deal with this. I don't know, if I have the resources. Trust, if you're in it, if that dialogue is going, trust that this too shall pass. I've got this, one step at
Yeah.
a time, right?
You see, even just that I've got this is okay, I've got this. I've
Yeah.
got this. Just is that peace of mind. Um, yeah.
Yes. And see right there, that can actually stop
That's a
if,
great story. I've
yeah,
got this.
I've
I've
got
got
this.
this.
But that can actually calm the, oh my God, oh my God type of storytelling in your mind, right? It's like, I've got this.
Yeah.
Then
Yeah.
get into peace of mind. Okay, I don't see all the steps right now, or I'm not quite sure what I'm going to do, but if I've got this and it's all right, I don't need to keep creating that big narrative that's
Yeah.
not serving me, right? Trust is such a
Yeah.
trust
And
allows us to pivot too,
yeah,
right? Wouldn't you say?
yeah, totally. Totally. Trust is so important. Trust is incredibly important. Um, I would love you to talk about the four agreements.
She's deferring
And
that one
and the
to me.
reason I'm just saying, yeah, I threw that to you because also my internet's playing up, I can see.
Ah,
But I'm just going to say, Moira, just while I try to
for
figure out what's going on with my internet,
yeah, for sure. So
can you just do the four agreements for
of
me?
course, of course, of course.
Yeah,
So the four agreements are the perfect way to actually unpack or really get into the stories. Are the stories you're telling yourself the truth? So the four agreements, if you haven't followed them before, or if you haven't listened to us before, because we often bring them in and talk about them. So the first one is to always be impeccable with your word. So being impeccable with your word is a beautiful way to check that story. Am I telling the truth? Am I telling the current version of what's going on for me or around me? Always being impeccable with your word means the thoughts you think, the words you use. So it's internal and external communication. The second one is to not take things personally. Other people have reactions, other people have stories. So even if somebody else is making up a story of like, oh, that person's not good enough, or you're not able to do that, or whatever that may be, it's not about you, it's about them. And sometimes that's all you can do is keep repeating to yourself, it's not about me, it's not about me. Their reaction, their judgment, their way of seeing something is not about me. The third one is to avoid assumptions. So that's
nah,
another way there she is, you're back.
it's like I think I'm back. I'm going, yeah, assumptions. Of course, that comes at that time.
So assumptions that's a beautiful way to going back to what Deb said at the first tip about where's the evidence, is where is the evidence? Because it could be that the story you're telling yourself is based on a flawed assumption that's not actually the truth or not giving you the evidence. And then the last one is to always do your best. And make sure that you're always doing your best means checking in. What is my best today? Just for today. Because that's the other part we always like to say about the four agreements is just for today. So maybe you could say, just for today, I'm going to be impeccable with my word. Just for today, I won't take anything personally. Just for today, I will not make any assumptions. And just for today, I'll do my best. That's it. Beautiful way to really stay present, because we're all storytellers. We all live by stories. We listen to stories. We tell stories, right?
I know. I just, when you just said just for today, I'm actually putting that as a separate tip because yesterday I spoke to a gentleman who's in a bit of a frazzle. And I, you know what, I took him straight to, which is not my go-to, but I went, let me talk about the four agreements. And he goes, okay. And I went, but hang on, I need to get them out of my drawer because I keep forgetting what they are. And he's like, oh, okay, so I've got a really intelligent person here on the other end of the phone he's talking about something. But when I said to him about these things, he went, oh, that seems so hard, so hard.
Oh,
I
yeah.
said, what I want you to do is just for today.
Mhm.
And he went, just today? And all of a sudden I had more life in his voice because he
Beautiful.
went, just for today?
He's like, oh, I can do that.
And he literally just created a story that, oh, everything's gonna be hard, da da da. And when I said just for today, he just went, just for today. And he got so animated, and I was
Cool.
like, well, Lumineck, who would have thought just for today has left him with an effervescent energy from everything. And the reason I say that is because it does allow you to go, instead of having a big funnel with all the things you've got to do today, like I've
Hmm.
got to be a people of the word, I've got to do this, I've got to, shoulda, oughta, and all those
Yeah.
crazy things. But what comes down that funnel, that very last part, is just for today.
Yeah.
Just for today, I'm going to do this. Just for today. And he goes, but what about tomorrow? I went, just for tomorrow. He goes, oh, I do it again. I do it again. And literally, because I was like, if you can start doing this week, just start implementing. And then I said, then I went just for today. And I could hear him going, all week I've got to be impeccable with word. All week I've got to be personal. And then when I said, hey, what about tomorrow? Just for tomorrow. And he suddenly lit up again. And I'm like, well, blow me down just for today because it just seemed so achievable. So, it's a separate tip, people. It's a separate strategy because it just allows you to focus on just for today. Just for today.
Do you know what the thing I listening to you and how you were sharing about that conversation that you had? I think that what happens is that the one that I find trips people up the most is the taking things personally,
That's his one.
right?
That was his one. Yeah.
Yeah. And so the thing is that if we say just for today or just for this hour, just for this phase, don't
Yeah.
take things personally. But what I think happened, and when I've said it to clients, is that they think of every example where somebody's been angry at them or told them off or said, you shouldn't do this, or you make me this, or and it implodes on them.
Yeah.
And then they feel like, oh my God, I have to stand up to that and not take any of that personally. It seems overwhelming. Whereas just for today, oh, okay, I'm only going to see this person, this person, this person. So regardless of how they react, I can deal with that.
Yeah, and which takes us to the next strategy for me is other people's perception.
Mm-hmm.
Because who I worked with a lady and recently, and I'm just going to reword this how I can word this for the podcast. I worked with this woman, and she said, "What you did, Deborah, is you took my whole brain out." She said, "I could see you taking my brain out, moving it to the side, and dumping it in an empty rubbish bin, and you put a new one in, and now I have to figure out what the heck that is." And I'm like, well, we don't know what that looks like. I'm not here to tell you what it looks. Let's just create what it feels and looks like for you. But
Mm-hmm.
when she went back home, she had an identity before she came to see me in New Zealand. She had an identity of who she was,
Right.
and um, she had a medical condition, and she was on a cane, if I say walking cane.
Walking
And
stick.
when she went home, we did some work, um, and she's let the cane go,
Good for
and
her.
um but what's happened is people have gone, oh no, 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 you can't do that. You can't go away for a few days and come back. No, no, we still want that same woman in that cane. We want to
Mm,
help you in and out of the car. We want to help. And she's like, no, I don't need it. Like,
right.
um, And so now she's battling other people's perceptions of who she was.
Right.
And that is just a crazy that she's dealing with at the moment, because it's literally they're going, but we know you as this. So be cautious, just be aware, open your eyes, don't take things personally again, that they only know you as the person with the cane. If I'm trying to just, I don't even know how to describe it. That's it. But other people's perceptions of her, they're battling more than she is. She's trying to fill her brain up with what do I love to do, and they're going, but hang on, what about you used to be able to do this, or
Mm.
you used to always struggle with this, and they're trying to fill that up with the weeds, as I say, and she's trying to plant flowers. Does that all make sense? I just
Well, this is because this is the thing.
validate that, Moira.
But this is
Please.
actually feeling like a separate tip, even though we're talking about other people's opinion. The thing is that sometimes, because truth is, we are all evolving at
Mm,
our own pace, our own rate. We're evolving, we're uplifting, we're up leveling to our pace. However,
yeah.
sometimes in this scenario that you've described, other people's perceptions may say, no, 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 you're wobbling. You're shaking up the paradigm because I don't know you as that person.
Mm.
Whereas that's her trajectory and that needs to be celebrated by her. So if there's anybody else kind of saying, no, 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 you have to keep using your cane, or you have to keep being
Holding it
dependent
back,
on,
holding it
yeah,
back from
from you,
transforming. Yeah,
yeah. Yeah,
you can
that's
see my
funny. We
arms
both did
just
the same. We both did the same thing. Ta-da!
we did. Yeah, our arms went out and went, here, we're here.
But yeah, so I think that that's really important, is when we're looking at, are the stories you tell yourself the truth? There's another part in that allow other people to have their version of their stories. You don't have to take them. It's
Yeah,
like, yep, that's your opinion, that's your story. Have at her, right?
yeah, and I think that's a beautiful one, because when we talk about our story, it's your life is one storybook, and so that's a chapter. That chapter is finished, and
Mhm.
whoever reads a book and goes back to the chapter. Well, I don't anyway. Hang on. Do you go back to the chapter before when you're just like, hang on? No, no,
No,
that
and
chapter's
unless something gets said in that current chapter that refers to something that was in the previous one, and I'll go,
that you
what?
think
I missed that.
I missed that. Let me go back. But not often do we actually go back to read that same chapter again.
No, no.
And I think that's the thing, is just knowing that it's a chapter, it's movable, like we've talked about.
Mhm.
But people come into your chapter
Yeah,
of your storybook, and then they go again, and just knowing that that's a chapter that's closed,
yeah.
and you can move on.
And then what's the next chapter?
Yeah.
And so it's to celebrate. Oh, there's the tip. Celebrate.
Oh,
Celebrate the fact that you are constantly, like, that's what's said about our life, right? Is that we are the author, the director, and the actor in our own life script.
yeah.
So celebrate that if you have a story or a belief system or a way of being that's not suiting you anymore, celebrate the fact that you get to, oh, I get to
I
level
get to.
up. I
You
get to,
said it
yeah, I
there.
get to
I
shift
get
and
to.
change.
And when you
Yeah,
get to I get to, that's when you get to. You pick and choose. You control you.
I'm the boss of me.
I'm the boss of me. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, because truth is we are. Nobody but nobody can make us feel something unless we
Mm,
say so.
yeah.
So if we say, oh, that person made me feel betrayed or made me feel less than or made me feel like I'm a loser,
Hmm.
no, they didn't. You bought into it, you allowed it. So
Yeah.
change your story. If it's not your story, change it.
Yeah.
You're the boss,
Yeah.
right?
It is that. I'm actually going to put you are the boss as number one. Another tip. I mean, not number one tip. Well, it is number one tip. But going back to that, I'm going to go back to you are the boss of you.
You are. You are. And so being the boss of you always means that you get to choose the words you use to and about yourself. So you
Yeah.
can say, you can actually say, I sucked.
You can.
You
Cancel,
can.
cancel,
And yep,
cancel.
exactly. And then, or you can say, I am the master of my own creation.
Yeah.
Doesn't that feel
Yeah.
cool?
I
I'm
love
the
that.
master. I'm the master of my own creation, of my own castle.
Now, what happens if we say these are the stories, you tell yourself the truth. What happens if we have a story we really want to hold on to? We really want to hold on to, and it's no longer serving us. And when I think about this, I think about, oh, I'm still, well, actually, I don't drink, so hang on. I was trying to think of somebody who goes, oh, I can't drink like I can still drink like I could in the 20s, and I'm 60. It's that sometimes you have to let the story go to evolve to the next level.
Mm.
But it's actually one that you want to hold on to. So I think I want to just go, is this story serving you in the current lifestyle you're living?
I like that.
And really, just going, is this serving me? Like, do I want to be a 60-year-old drinking with the 20-year-olds? Now, I just do that as an example because which I don't drink. Moira and I both are the same here. Well, she'll have a little tipple
I
at
will.
Christmas. Yeah.
I will.
But you don't have to be that same 20-year-old drinking. Does that make sense?
Well, it
I don't
does.
really want to blame the
So it's
60-year-olds who are drinking to the 20-year-olds, but so I feel I'm not wording it nicely enough.
well, I would have, so in my 20s, I might drink a bottle of wine, but in my 60s, I'm only drinking a glass of wine. And then that's
Oh, see, in my
okay.
20s, I was drinking a bottle of spirits. Okay. So, yeah.
But so the thing is that I like what you're proposing here though is the story serving me in the current version of who I am, or the
Yes.
the uplifted or the most aligned version of
Yeah.
me,
Yeah.
right? Because um
You're listening to Deliciously Motivated Mindset with Deborah and Moira, here to help listeners unlock their full potential so they can thrive, not just survive. They've shared some very powerful insights so far, so it's time to take a moment to breathe, reflect, and jot down any key takeaways. What's one piece of advice that stands out to apply right away? Before wrapping up, Deborah and Moira would love to hear from everyone. Reach out with thoughts, questions, or feedback, and drop your favorite tip from today's episode. They're inspired to see how listeners are putting these insights into practice. Let's dive back in and finish strong.
this is funny. I probably said this, that you know how as we get older we have to be more mindful of eating donuts and cream filled cakes. And in
Apparently.
in my 20s, I used to work in this company where the sales reps would come in and bring me whipped cream um donuts, chocolate covered cream donuts. And that was my
Oh,
breakfast. They were
oh,
delicious. And I never put a pound on. Like, I was really, really skinny. But
yeah.
my gosh, if I did that now.
I know. Well, yeah, exactly. And I think being honest and truthful about um this new version of you, you know,
Yeah.
that and just, but it's your version, not what people say. Because I mean, I don't know how many people said to me in your 30s, oh, you need to be start exercising and looking after your weight, and you need to be watching your skin elasticity and all this. And I'm like, I'm freaking 30. That happens when you're in the 70s, is my head. And then 40s, people are like, you need to be starting to exercise and you need to be need. And I'm like, ugh. And then 50, I'm like, they're like, you need to be doing that. And then actually now I'm starting to see it. I'm like,
Oh.
okay,
But
maybe
but
20
now
years.
you're saying I get to.
Yeah, yeah,
You're
exactly.
not listening to other people saying you should, Deb.
Yeah, I'm only 25 years behind the bandwagon of this. Okay, fine. But it's just, just I think just recognizing that who am I now
Hmm.
and what works for me now. And
Yeah.
it is going back to the you are the boss of you
Yeah.
again.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
always realizing I choose, Right. So thinking about exercising, so people can say you should, but and Deb, you know this, I get my 10,000 steps every single day. I
Mm,
choose that. I choose that because it makes me feel good.
yeah.
Nobody's telling me I have to, right?
Well, I'm going to just pivot back to this. How many days have you done this in a row, Moira? If we all take note of this, hang on a minute. How many days in a row have you done this for?
600 and something.
Yeah.
Yep.
So she's in her third year.
Yep.
She's in her third year every day. She's doing this, just letting people know. But this is definitely no longer a story. This is actually something she loves to do. This is embedded,
Yeah.
practicing every day,
Yep.
or not practicing, doing it every day for over 2 years.
Mhm.
And remembering that. So the more you do things, the more it just becomes natural. So
You
it's no longer
embody
a
it. That's
story.
embodying it. Yeah.
Yeah, it's no
Yeah.
longer a story, oh, I have to go to this, or even just saying I get to go and walk today. Well, no, it's actually just you don't get to. It's just part of your being.
Yeah. Yeah.
You don't
That's
even have to
actually,
think about.
that's really important.
Yeah.
I
And
like
that's
that a
another
lot
one
because
of my two.
it's not a story anymore. You're right.
No, it's not. It's part of you waking up in the morning and saying your gratitude. It's part of you having a glass of water before you, I don't know, clean your teeth, or it's just a routine, but it's not labeled a routine. It's just is. It
It's your
just
identity, isn't it?
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Yeah. So you embody
Yeah, you're
yeah,
embodying it.
embodying it and having gratitude that you get to do it. But I like that too. It's very much that it's an identity. So it's not a story anymore.
No, that's definitely not a story that you walk every day. You get that step. That's not a story. It's a giving. It's a given.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's it's something you would just go, why would I not?
Yeah.
Like if someone said to you, why do you walk? Why would I not? Like what? You're talking left and right again. So yeah, why would I not? But it's the embodying, and it just flows, it comes natural. It's not, you don't have to think about it. And that's rewriting that story to a completely different level. You don't even choose to, you don't even get to, I love to. You don't even think about it. It's just the same as breathing, getting up and breathing every day.
I really like that. And just listening and feeling into the energy you just shared with that almost feels like stepping up the ladder, right?
Mm.
Is
And
that
not consciously looking
not
that you're stepping.
consciously?
It's
No.
it's not saying, here's my goal, here's my inspiration, I've got to do this. It's just, yeah,
It's an evolution of you
yeah,
go from people telling you you should do this. Yeah, yeah, I
yeah,
should do this. I should do this.
yeah,
They say.
yeah,
And then you start doing it saying, yeah, I should do this. That now you're starting to say I should do this.
mm,
And then it maybe morphs into, oh gosh, this really makes me feel good. So I'm going to do it
yeah,
more.
yeah,
And then it comes into the I get to, and then to the point where the natural evolution of it for the things that really align with your own truth, you then embody and that's part of who you are,
yeah,
right?
yeah.
Yeah, that feels like a beautiful upward
If it-
spiral, maybe
yeah, it does.
rather than a up the ladder. It's an upward spiral. And of course, it's done at your
Pace.
pace, nobody else's pace. Yeah, yeah.
But that's Moira. She's done that for over 2 years, every day for over 2 years, people.
Mm,
And this is not saying it's going to take you 2 years to change that story. Definitely not, because that story can be changed the moment you make that decision.
yeah,
Just saying. This is not the moment you make that decision, that story can be changed. But this has now gone to it is an uphill spiral.
yeah,
It's just it
yeah,
feels glittery. Yeah,
yeah.
I can
Which
say
then
that.
gives you gratitude. And the truth of me doing this is actually because I have a trapped nerve in my back. And so, and so I'm
I-
giggling because one of the doctors that I spoke to said that I couldn't do physical exercise so much anymore. I had to reduce it. And I remember thinking, nope, nope. I'll show you.
See, now we're not going against medical people, but be aware of the influences out there apart from Moira and I. Be, be aware of other people's perceptions, opinions. You know, I know we did talk about that, but be aware of that. And I'm not boo-hooing the medical. I'm definitely not boo-hooing the medical here. I need to emphasize that.
No,
But this is what feels right for you.
right.
And
You
we
still
might
are the
find out,
authority.
yeah, we might find out in 20 years' time that it has screwed over Moira's back more, but
Who knows?
but right now it feels just a beautiful flow
Mhm,
for her, and
mhm.
that's it. But be aware of other people's opinions, you know. Oh, you can't do that. You can't do that. This
Well,
isn't.
that's the whole thing about, so you can internalize, you can receive somebody's, particularly
Mm,
if it's a medical professional that says, oh, here, this is your diagnosis. Obviously, the medical system is there, we need it,
mm.
but it's also very important to
It's a guide. Oh,
still
well,
take responsibility for your path through it, right?
yeah. Well, you're the one who has to sleep at night with the decisions and actions you make.
Yeah.
I think that's, and take accountability. So, this, you know, I'm going to put this as a tip. Are the stories you tell yourself the truth? You are accountable to your stories, no one else's.
Yeah.
You can change your story if you want, or not. No one else is going to change your story because they've got their own stories to change about you or them.
Yeah.
So you're accountable to your stories, your actions, your world, your consequences, your whatever it is. But
Mhm.
you are accountable to that.
Yes. And so similar to what you were sharing about that client is, when we take accountability for our stories, we also give ourselves some freedom that if
Mm,
I no longer want this version or this story, I can change it, but I'm not going to allow somebody else's version of what that past story was of me to keep me
mm,
stuck, right?
yeah,
So if
yeah.
it's kind of like, no, 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 but you always said you were doing it this way. Like, yeah, well, I changed.
Yeah, well, I'm not the same person. I've had enough of limited sleep, or
Yeah,
but this is me.
I want
And
something different.
yeah, exactly. And when I think about this, it is just goes back to you have all the power within you.
Yeah,
It's up to you what you do with this. What you do with this. Now we're gonna have to wrap this up, otherwise we're gonna be on this whole tangent, with us as we do. But
as we do.
is there any tip you'd like to end before I wrap this up, or before we go back through our tips?
Well, I just thought maybe we need to, oh, here. I just thought we need a Yogi tea bag quote. Oh,
Oh,
I like this one. Um,
okay,
oh, this is actually just perfect of all the ones I could have picked.
of course.
Okay, of course. Many paths lead to the same destination. It doesn't matter how you get there.
Oh,
Isn't that perfect?
of
So
course.
there can be multitudinous stories about how to get there. Doesn't matter. I
Yeah.
really like that one. That beautifully encapsulates a lot of what we
That
just talked
sums
about.
it that well and truly sums it up. And
Mm.
appreciating that journey. Appreciate that
Yes.
journey, even
Yeah.
if it feels like you're going through walking
Through
on hot fire. I'll
coming
refrain
through the
from
barbed
my
wire fence.
yeah, exactly. Yeah, my head's going, no, don't say that on the podcast. Don't say that on the podcast. But let's wrap this up with we're going to cover the strategies we gave earlier. And so if you didn't grab a note-taking device, grab it now and just take some time to listen to this. And when you hear one of these tips or these strategies, I'd love you to go, oh, just for today.
Yeah. Good
Now,
idea. Good idea.
even though we have I think there's 14 or 15 strategies here, which is quite a lot. I actually decided to count them today, but I've missed out two. I've got number 2 and number 4. But when we get to that, just feel into it and go, oh, I like that. Yeah, just for today. But don't get yourself overwhelmed and go, oh my God, I'm going to do all of them just for today because there's quite a few. So just for today, just pick a few of them. Just
Yeah.
pick a few,
Pick,
1, 2, or
pick
3,
two,
and just
two or
start
three. Yeah.
how they go. Just don't make it unachievable.
Yeah.
So we're now going to crack on and sum up our podcast in a short, condensed time. Are the stories you tell yourself the truth? And I'm going to start with the first one because I didn't get the second one. So it means then Moira can tell me the second one. So the first one is, what is the evidence? What is the evidence that that story is actually true? Where did it come from? Did it come from a movie? Did it come from when you're a child? You know, the famous money doesn't grow on trees.
Yeah.
You know,
Did you inherit
just,
it?
yeah, any of that stuff. And money does grow on trees, just for the way, but doesn't come in banknotes like we think about. But where is the evidence that that story is actually the truth? And bring that level of curiosity, wonderment into that.
Wonderment. I like
Wonderment.
wonderment. So the second one was my favorite. How does it make me feel?
Of
How,
course.
yeah, when I tell that story, how does it make me feel? And so that's when I also said that if it makes you feel, less than or some form of heaviness or got at in some way, you got to discharge it. Discharge the energy, shake it off. You can write out the story, rip it up, say that's it. I'm not gonna narrate that anymore. Change it. Yeah. So how does it make me feel about me?
And be truthful,
Yes, tell the truth.
because there's no point being, anyway. The number the next one I have is it's movable story.
Yeah.
So it's not set in concrete, it's movable. You know, you've been through things before, you've survived. It may have been painful that you thought about, but you're still here today listening to the podcast, learning and evolving. So just know that that story, if it is uncomfortable, is movable. It's not solid.
Yep. Can be changed. And the
Yeah.
next one I said after that was you don't have to believe the story. Right? So that actually brings in a little bit of assumptions. But so sometimes we can tell ourselves a story of, oh my gosh, this is how it's all going to go. You don't have to believe it. That actually goes back to a little bit about what you were saying on tip number 1 there about where's the evidence. I don't have to believe it. Right?
Yeah, because we are ever evolving, changing changing
Yeah.
people daily.
Yeah.
The next one I have down is trust. And trust, and Moira said, I've got this. Even
Yeah.
just saying that, hand on heart, I've got this. Just it's that level of trust that you can again get through things before and you've got through that. But trust. This is
Yep.
going to work out the way it is. I'm at the moment doing a course at the moment and I'm sitting in incredible trust because it's a little bit painful.
Different paradigm than what you've done before.
It's definitely we're talking left and right. We're talking way left to me being way right. Like it's
Other end
full.
of the spectrum.
Absolutely. But I'm trusting. And the trusting is now it's say a 10 hours a day. That word trust comes in a lot. It's not just, oh, I'm starting the day, I'm going to trust it's going to work. Suddenly I go on this tangent. I'm like, I'm trusting this is working. I'm trusting this is landing. I'm trusting I'm going to get the most perfect. And it's just reminding myself. So if you have to trust yourself 20 times a day, in fact, maybe I'll just count today how many times it happens. But just
and then report back.
report back and go, there were 72 times I had to tell myself to trust. But just know that this is not a one and done.
Yeah, most definitely.
And that's why I just want to emphasize, you're not going to go, I trust this is going to work, because there's going to be this mindset that's going to pop in. You're going to go, oh, okay, I trust this is going to work. Oh, I trust this. I trust I'm getting something. I'm trusting, and this is evolving. This is not just one and done.
No, because we all have that little inner dialogue. Really? How do you know it's all okay?
Yeah.
And what about that?
No, you haven't. Yes, I have. Yeah.
Which is nicely taking us into the next one I have is the 4 agreements, where I went into the 4 agreements, because when we say I like being impeccable with your word, when I say I trust everything's fine, I trust everything's working out in the best way, being impeccable with my word, it gives me a little bit more surety about it, right? So
Yeah.
the 4 agreements are: always be impeccable with your word, don't take things personally, don't make assumptions, and always do your
Mhm.
best. And just for today, right?
Just for today.
Just for today.
Just for
I
today.
loved your story, what you said about that
It-
conversation you had.
I know. It's just like, oh,
I can do
just
that.
for today. Just for today is a whole separate tip on its own. It's just a simple way to go, oh, okay, I can do this.
Mhm.
I can do this. I can do this. Just for today. Just for today, I'm going to trust. And then
Yeah.
tomorrow. And then the day after. Okay.
Yes.
But be aware of other people's perceptions and opinions of you
Hmm.
because their story, who you are, is different to who you think you are.
Hmm.
I mean, you can listen to them, definitely you can listen to their stories and what they think about you, but you don't have to take it on. So just be aware of it.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying don't listen because some you're like, oh, I didn't even know I do that. Thanks for letting me know. But
Yeah.
then other
Sometimes it's good reflection.
yeah, definitely. And other times you're just like, what?
Yep.
What? You got to be kidding. I didn't do that. What? They're cuckoo. You know, any of that sort of stuff. But just be aware. It's just opening your eyes to other people's perceptions and opinions and knowing you don't have to take the mud that they're giving you and rub yourself all over it because
Yep.
you are who you want to be and it's back to you.
Definitely. Which actually, when you embody that fully, the next tip that I put down was celebrate. So to
Mm,
celebrate that you are the boss, celebrate that the I get to do this.
mm,
So sometimes maybe you can listen to somebody else's perception of you, but then celebrate. I don't have to buy into that story
absolutely. Or
because
celebrate that they've alerted something to,
yeah,
you know, I had a conversation with my partner yesterday and I said, oh, are you aware you do this? She was like, no.
no,
I'm like, oh, I thought you knew. And she's like, is it a problem? I'm like, no, I just noticed it. And I just thought, I didn't know if you knew. She's like, I don't want to do that. And I'm like, well, we'll deal with it. I'm fine with it. But it was really literally, I was just like, are you aware you do that out of, for me, it was wonderment, that like, I didn't know if
just
she was
curiosity.
aware of it. Yeah.
Yeah.
And it is just that
Mm.
celebrate again,
Mhm.
celebrate that stuff again. Yeah. You are the boss of you. You are the boss of you.
Mhm.
And that is just one tip on its own. That's it. Your decisions,
Yep.
your actions, you are the boss of you. End of.
Mhm. I like it.
Full stop.
Full
Yeah.
stop. The end.
Yeah,
Uh,
that's it.
the next one I have here is the story you're currently telling yourself. Is it aligned with the current version of you? That's when you were
Mm.
talking about a 60-year-old drinking like they were
Yeah.
20.
Well, some people probably can drink the same
Somebody
that
probably, yeah,
yeah.
probably. Yeah.
Crikey, I could have a sniff of spirits and now my body turns inside out. Even if someone's drinking near, I'm like, yeah, I can feel that my whole body. Yeah. But you also said I choose, and it goes to that. I choose. I
Yeah.
choose to do this version of me or not.
Yeah.
I think this is my favorite tip. I think this one here is when and I talked about Moira walking.
Mhm.
And I can say walking because the dogs aren't in my room,
All
but
right.
if anyone's listening to this and you've got dogs, walkies, I'll just stir you up a little bit. There we go. But it's where Moira's been walking for over 2 years every day and doing 10,000 steps. So this is not, I get to do this, I choose to do this, I love to do this. She's gone to a whole different level that is embodied in her, and it's just a given. She does not have to think.
Mhm.
It just naturally comes. And that's not a story.
No.
We talk about other stories, you tell yourself the truth. That's not a story. That's just a flow of essence. That's a being of who
Yep.
Moira is. Now she can change it at any time, but it's so embedded in her that she's not even aware that you're aware that it's in there, but it just comes so naturally. It's not on your radar. If I
Yep.
was to say,
And that's when we said that because that's just part of my identity.
Absolutely. And
And
it's a natural evolution. That's where she said it feels like a spiral going up,
yeah,
not a ladder. And
yeah.
I can feel that. It is. It is
Hmm.
that. And because it's her identity. It's part of her essence.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. The next one was where this was one for you, said about taking accountability. You take accountability for the story you're telling, and it's yours. You can't be accountable for other people's versions or other people's stories. And to your point about you can listen to them, you can hear them, but you
Yeah.
don't take them on. You don't take accountability for other people's stories. Kind of go, oh,
Yeah.
that's interesting that you think that of me, but I know the truth of me, and I get to be the narrator of my story, right?
Well, I know when people have said things about me, I'm like, wow, that's interesting. You know me so well. And then they're just like, what? Oh, that's interesting. You have that perception of me. And oh, that's interesting that that actually came out your mouth and didn't stay in your head. It's a little bit of an arrogant one. That one, I have said that before recently, more than once. And oh, that's an interesting perception. But it is. You're accountable to yours. And I just when you were saying that, I was thinking, first we blame others, then we blame ourselves, and then we evolve. And I think that goes back to that you're accountable. If you're going to
Yeah,
blame others, there's none of the two levels.
just
Start blaming
notice
yourself
it.
and then actually evolve.
Mhm.
Not once you blamed yourself, you're noticing it.
Yeah,
Clearly, you're not going to sit in that blame, but you're going to evolve, and that's that accountability. And then the last strategy we had, which is Moira's tea bag quote, and I've got the start of it. Many paths lead to the same destination.
it doesn't matter how you get there.
Yeah.
Isn't that perfect?
Isn't that beautiful? Even just other stories you tell yourself the truth.
Mhm.
That sums it up in a beautiful heart coherent way.
Absolutely.
It's
See, heart
beautiful.
coherence bookended our episode today. I like that.
Yeah, here we go. Here we go. That's exactly it. So, listeners, what the next question I'm going to ask you. You know the listeners. The listeners who are going to be prepared for this question. Are you playing the game of life to the fullest? Now, I didn't say your game of life. I said the game of life because as much as it's yours, it's the game of life. So, are you playing the game of life to the fullest? So, what I'd love you to do today is just for today, I want you to think what's your highest priority action step you're going to do today to achieve your inspiration?
Mm.
What is your highest priority action step you're going to do today after this podcast to achieve your inspiration? And then share it. And then
Yeah,
share it. 'Cause as much as we're nosy, we're invested.
yeah,
We're invested. We love to know. We love to hear your stories. Stories.
definitely.
You're
Yeah,
telling the truth. We love to hear your stories about what that is. And I would love to know, well, Maura and I would both love to know what strategy did you really enjoy today that you're going to implement? What are those two or three
yeah,
that we talked?
yeah. That would
So
be
thank you, listeners, for showing up for our Deliciously Motivated Mindset podcast or conversation about are the stories you tell yourself the truth. And thank you, Internet, for pulling this one together because that was a bit hairy. I don't
a
know if
bit
anyone
dodgy
noticed
there.
it. Yep, we'll go with that one. That was a story that I was not letting attach to me. And thank you, Moira, for your wisdom today and sharing that. And thank you, Deborah, for bantering with Moira on her wisdom, and for the heart coherent at the start and the heart coherent at the end.
I love it.
We're here for you. Thank you, everybody. Are the stories you tell yourself the truth?
I love
Thanks,
it.
everybody.
Thanks, dear
Bye.
Debs. See you next time. Bye.
Thank you for tuning into Deliciously Motivated Mindset with Deborah and Moira, where the mission is to help listeners unlock their full potential and thrive, not just survive. As the episode comes to a close, they trust you've gained some powerful insights. If you haven't already, take a moment to reflect on one key takeaway that you'll apply right away. Before we wrap things up, Deborah and Moira would love to hear from you. Reach out with thoughts, questions, or feedback and drop your favorite tip from today's episode. They're inspired to see how you're putting your insights into action. Thanks for listening, and remember to keep thriving.